Dad's 65th birthday was meant to be a celebration, but I should have known better. Nothing in our family ever went as planned, especially when my brother Marcus was involved. The dining room was decked out with balloons and streamers, the table set with Mom's best china, and everyone doing their best to act like we were a happy, ordinary family. But we weren't, and we never had been. So, Dad, Marcus said, lifting his wine glass with a grin, I've got some exciting news to share on your big day. Everyone turned toward him with anticipation. Marcus had always been the favorite, the successful one. At 35, he owned a real estate company, had a beautiful wife named Jennifer, and 2 kids my parents adored. Meanwhile, I was 32 and still labeled the family disappointment. Jennifer and I have been talking, Marcus continued, glancing at his wife, who smiled approvingly. We think it's time for some big changes. Dad leaned forward with interest. What kind of changes, son? Marcus paused dramatically before answering. We've been looking at houses in the suburbs. Better schools for the kids, more space, a real neighborhood vibe. That sounds wonderful, Mom said, glowing with pride. But what does that have to do with us? Marcus grinned wider. We want you and Dad to move in with us. We're thinking of buying a big house with an in-law suite. Maybe even a pool for the grandkids. The room erupted in cheerful chatter. Aunt Carol called it a beautiful idea. Uncle Jim praised the financial sense of it, and Cousin Beth immediately started asking about the pool. But Dad looked puzzled. What about this house? We've lived here for 30 years. That's the best part, Marcus said eagerly. We sell this place and use the money toward the new house. The market's great right now. You could easily get $800,000, maybe more. My stomach sank. This was the house I grew up in, the one where I'd had my first kiss on the porch, graduated high school, and spent years helping Dad with repairs. It was also where I lived now. After my divorce 2 years ago, I'd moved back home to save up and to help Dad after his heart attack. It wasn't ideal, but it worked for both of us. Dad hesitated. That's a nice idea, but what about Alex? This is her home too. Every face turned toward me. I could feel their silent expectation that I just agree. But Marcus wasn't finished. Pack your bags, loser, he said with a smug smile. This house is going up for sale. The room went quiet for a second, then filled with laughter and toasts, as if Marcus had just announced a promotion. To new beginnings, Jennifer said. To family, Aunt Carol added. To a fresh start, Uncle Jim joined in. I sat frozen, watching them celebrate what was essentially my eviction. No one asked where I'd go, if I could afford rent, or why this conversation was happening at Dad's birthday dinner. Now Alex can finally learn to stand on her own, Mom said approvingly. It's time she stopped depending on us. Exactly, Marcus agreed. She's 32. Most people her age have their own homes, their own families. It's embarrassing having her live here like a teenager. The words hit hard, but what hurt most was seeing my parents nod in agreement. Even Dad, who I'd been caring for since his heart attack, stayed silent. This will be good for everyone, Jennifer added sweetly. Alex needs independence, and your parents deserve their freedom. When do you plan to list the house? Aunt Carol asked eagerly. As soon as possible, Marcus said. My realtor friend can have it on the market by the end of the week, if we move quickly. The end of the week? I finally spoke up. You're giving me less than a week to find a new place? Marcus shrugged. That's plenty of time. There are lots of rentals if you're not picky, and you don't have much to move. Most of your stuff's old junk anyway, Mom added casually. I looked around the table at the faces I'd known my whole life and felt nothing but distance. These weren't the people who'd raised me. They were strangers celebrating my misfortune. I need some air, I said, standing up. Don't be dramatic, Marcus called after me. You should thank us for giving you a push to grow up. I stepped onto the front porch, the same one where Dad and I had spent countless evenings talking about life and plans for the future. The irony was bitter. I was being pushed out of the very house I'd helped maintain for 2 years. While the laughter continued inside, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts and I found my contacts until I found the name I needed. James Morrison. Senior partner at Morrison & Associates Real Estate Law. He'd handled my divorce and had since become a trusted friend. Sharp, professional, and most importantly, someone who actually listened. I dialed James's number, hoping he'd pick up even though it was Saturday evening. Alex, he answered on the second ring. Everything okay? James, I need your help with something urgent, I said quietly, making sure no one inside could hear. Can you pull up the property records for 1247 Maple Street? That's my parents' house. Sure. Give me a moment, he replied. I could hear him typing. All right. What do you need to know? I need to see who owns it and if there are any liens, mortgages, or encumbrances. That's an interesting request, he said, shifting into his professional tone. According to the records, the property belongs to Clearwater Holdings, LLC. There's a large mortgage on it and... Wait, that's strange. What's strange? I asked, though I had a feeling I already knew. There are recent filings, he said. Looks like the original owners, Robert and Margaret Hamilton, defaulted about 18 months ago. The property went through foreclosure and Clearwater Holdings purchased it at auction. So, my parents don't actually own the house anymore? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Not according to this, James confirmed. Clearwater Holdings has owned it for about 14 months. But Alex, how did you even know to check? I took a slow breath. Because I'm Clearwater Holdings. There was silence on the line for several seconds. You bought your parents' house? He asked finally. When Dad had his heart attack, I found out they were months behind on mortgage payments, I explained. They were about to lose the house but wouldn't tell anyone. So, I used my divorce settlement to buy it at the foreclosure auction and let them keep living here without knowing. Alex, that's incredibly generous, James said. But why keep it from them? Because Dad's always been proud of being a homeowner, I said. I didn't want to embarrass him. I figured once they were stable again, I'd transfer the property back. But now your brother wants to sell the house, James said, catching on. Exactly, I replied. He thinks he can sell a home he doesn't own. And my parents believe him because they don't know the truth. What do you need me to do? Prepare the paperwork showing I'm the legal owner, I said, and send cease and desist letters to any realtor who tries to list it. Consider it done, he said. I'll have it ready within the hour, but Alex, you'll have to tell them eventually. I know, I said. Tonight's the time. When I hung up, the laughter from inside was still loud. Marcus was probably talking about how they'd spend the sale money. I sat on the porch steps, bracing myself for what came next. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from James. Documents ready. Sent cease and desist to 3 local agents. You own that house free and clear. Good luck. I went back inside. Everyone was still gathered around the dining table, now brainstorming design ideas for Marcus's new house. We could put in a wine cellar, Jennifer said excitedly. And a home theater, Uncle Jim added. Don't forget the pool house, Aunt Carol chimed in. Marcus looked up when he saw me. There she is, done sulking? Actually, I said evenly, I need to tell you all something important. If you're about to beg us to let you stay, don't bother, Marcus said dismissively. The decision's made. I'm not begging, I replied, taking out my phone. I just spoke with my attorney. Mom rolled her eyes. Alex, you can't afford an attorney. Stop exaggerating. James Morrison from Morrison and Associates, I continued. He specializes in real estate law. Dad looked up. Why were you talking to a real estate lawyer? Because I wanted to understand the legal consequences of what Marcus is suggesting, I said calmly. Specifically, what happens when someone tries to sell a house they don't own? Marcus laughed. What are you talking about? Mom and Dad own this place. No, I said quietly. They don't. The room fell silent. That's ridiculous, Marcus said, but his confidence was fading. They've owned it for 30 years. They lived here for 30 years, I corrected. But they haven't owned it for 14 months. Dad's face turned pale. Alex, what are you saying? Dad, when you had your heart attack, I discovered you were nearly a year behind on payments. The bank started foreclosure proceedings. That's not possible, Mom said, her voice trembling. You were 3 months away from losing the house, I said gently. The bank sold it at auction. We worked it out, Dad insisted. They gave us a new plan. No, Dad, I said softly. It was already foreclosed. Marcus looked between us, his smugness gone. If it was sold, who owns it now? I took a steady breath. I do. The silence was heavy. Everyone stared like I'd just said something unthinkable. That's impossible, Marcus finally said. You don't have that kind of money. My divorce settlement, I explained. When Tom and I split, I got half of everything the house, investments, business. It came to about $900,000. Jennifer's eyes widened. You had $900,000 and lived here like you were broke? I used most of it to buy this house and clear the mortgage, I said. I wanted to make sure Mom and Dad had somewhere secure to live. Why didn't you tell us? Mom asked, her voice trembling. Because I knew you'd be embarrassed, I replied. I hoped Dad's health would improve, that you'd recover financially, and I could eventually transfer the property back. Marcus shook his head. So when I said we were going to sell the house, you meant selling my house, I finished. Without my consent. Dad's voice broke. But you let us believe we still owned it. I didn't want you to feel like you'd lost everything, I said quietly. I thought I was helping. The room erupted. Everyone started talking at once, anger, confusion, disbelief. This is insane, Marcus shouted. You can't just buy someone's house behind their back. She saved our home, Mom cried, Brahad. But she lied to us for over a year, Aunt Carol said. She was trying to help, Uncle Jim argued. Through the noise, Dad stayed silent, staring at me. Then he raised his hand for quiet. Alex, he said slowly, are you telling me that when we were about to lose the house, you used your divorce settlement to save it? Yes, I said. And you've let us live here rent-free for over a year? Yes. And you said nothing because you didn't want us to feel ashamed? Yes. Dad sat quietly for a moment before letting out a weary laugh, the kind that comes when you realize how wrong you've been. We treated you like a burden, he said, like someone who couldn't handle life. Robert, Mom said softly, we didn't know. We should have known, Dad interrupted. We should have paid attention instead of assuming the worst. Marcus still looked dazed. So you're saying I can't sell the house? It's not yours to sell, I said evenly. It's my house, and I'll decide what happens to it. But what about our plans? Jennifer asked quickly. The new house, the in-law suite, the pool. You'll have to make other arrangements, I replied. This is ridiculous, Marcus snapped. You're just jealous. You're ruining our plans. I'm not ruining anything, I said firmly. I'm protecting my property. If you want a bigger house, use your own money. But we were counting on selling this one, Jennifer protested. You were counting on money that wasn't yours, I pointed out. The argument dragged on for another 20 minutes, Marcus and Jennifer growing more agitated as reality sank in. Finally, Marcus glared at me. Fine, he said sharply. If that's how you want it, we'll cut you out of the family completely. Mom, Dad, you have to choose. Either she goes or we do. The room fell silent again. Mom and Dad exchanged glances, then looked at him. You want us to choose? Dad asked. Yes, Marcus said confidently. Between your successful son, who's trying to help this family, and your failure daughter, who's lied to you for over a year. Dad stood slowly, his expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought he'd side with Marcus. He always had before. Instead, he walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder. I choose the daughter who saved our home when we were too proud to ask for help, he said firmly. The daughter who used her divorce settlement to give us a place to live. The one who's cared for me since my heart attack, even while we treated her like she was the one who needed care. Mom stood beside him, tears in her eyes. I choose the daughter who put our needs above her own financial security, she said softly. The daughter who's been here not because she needed us, but because we needed her. Marcus stared at them in disbelief. You're choosing her over me? We're choosing the one who's actually been taking care of this family, Dad said. While you've been planning to profit from what you thought was our house, she's been making sure we still had a home. This is unbelievable, Marcus muttered, grabbing Jennifer's hand. Come on, we're leaving. Marcus, wait, Mom called after him. No, he said, turning back. If this is how you want it, fine. Don't expect our help, and don't expect to see your grandkids again. With that, he stormed out. Jennifer closed behind. Aunt Carol and Uncle Jim exchanged uneasy glances before leaving too, and Cousin Beth shrugged before slipping out. Within 10 minutes, the house was quiet again, just Mom, Dad, and me. We sat in silence, processing everything. I'm sorry, I said finally. I should have told you the truth sooner. No, Dad said. We're the ones who should apologize. We let Marcus convince us you were the problem when you were the solution. I can't believe we were so blind, Mom whispered. All this time, you were helping us, and we treated you like a failure. You're not failures, I said. You just hit a rough patch. Dad got sick. The bills piled up. It happens. Pride made things worse, but that doesn't make you bad parents. If you hadn't stepped in, Dad said quietly, we'd have been homeless. So what happens now? He asked after a moment. Do you want us to move out? I looked around the room, at the photos, the furniture, the memories that filled every corner. This is our family home, I said. I bought it to keep it in the family, and that's exactly where it's going to stay. You're not going anywhere. But Marcus, Mom began. Marcus made his choice, I said. He chose money and reputation over family. That's something he'll have to live with. What if he comes back? Dad asked. What if he apologizes? Then we'll talk, I replied. But he'll need to understand that this house isn't for sale and I'm not leaving. If he wants to be part of this family again, he has to start treating everyone with respect. A few weeks later, Marcus called. His tone was softer, uncertain, very unlike him. Alex, he said quietly, I've been thinking about what happened at Dad's party. And? I asked. I was wrong, he admitted. I didn't realize what you'd done for Mom and Dad. I didn't know you'd saved their house. You also didn't ask, I pointed out. I know, he said. I was too focused on my own plans to think about anyone else. Those plans involved selling a house that wasn't yours and making your sister homeless, I said flatly. I know, he repeated. I was terrible. Jennifer and I talked, and we both realized how out of line we were. So what's changed? I asked. We found another house, he said. It's smaller than what we wanted, but it's nice, and we can afford it without selling Mom and Dad's place. He paused. Your house. That's good to hear, I said. Alex, he continued, I was hoping we could fix things. I miss Mom and Dad. The kids miss their grandparents. And I miss having a sister. I stayed quiet for a moment. Marcus had been selfish and hurtful, but he was still my brother. Family was rarely simple. We can try, I said finally, but there will be some conditions. Anything, he said quickly. First, you apologize to Mom and Dad, not just about the house, but for how you've treated me. Done. Second, stop treating me like a failure or a burden. I make my own choices and handle my own life. Absolutely. And third, never make plans involving other people's property without their consent again. Never, he promised. Repairing our relationship took time. Months of awkward dinners and careful conversations passed before things started feeling normal again. Eventually, Marcus and Jennifer moved into their new house, complete with the pool their kids had wanted. Mom and Dad stayed in the home they'd built their lives in, and I got to keep my family, imperfect as it was. The best part was seeing Dad's health improve once the fear of losing his home was gone. He was back to gardening, fixing things, and acting like himself for the first time since his heart attack. One evening, as we sat on the porch, the same place where I'd made the call that changed everything, he turned to me and said, "You know what's funny?" What? I asked. Marcus spent years calling you a failure, Dad said, but you're the one who turned out to be the most successful of us all. How do you figure? I smiled. Success isn't about money or status, he said. It's about being there for the people you love when they need you most. It's about making sacrifices quietly, doing the right thing without expecting recognition. By that measure, you're the most successful person I know. As I sat there on the porch of the house I'd fought to save, surrounded by the family I'd held together, I knew he was right. Success wasn't about wealth or possessions. It was about how you handled hardship, how you treated the people you loved, and the kind of legacy you built. Marcus had finally learned that too, and in the end, that made all the difference.